Okay. Today I am going to have a different mechanics. I'll just be a little while here in Oculus Medium. I'm going to spend a lot of time with Blender and Substance Painter too. But first, I wanted to show this this sculpture. This is the one I'm going to be working today. I'm going to not been working today with the armor, but with this ugly alien head. And for this, I'm going to be working with a different microphone, which, as you might notice or will notice soon, it recollects sound from everywhere. So if you hear dogs crying or cars or people, it might be this microphone, because I'm aware that it's quite good recollecting ambient noise, and I'm not used to the fact of how to set the microphone in a way that it doesn't do that. And okay, let's begin. So first, as I mentioned, this is the model that I'm going to work with today. I, as you can see, already sculpted this, and the reason why I'm not showing the process is because it has been created with my new technique of sculpting, which I'm still working with it, trying to get used to it. So until I consider that this technique it's perfect, I will start to show that on my stream. So this sculpture has a lot of considerable detail compared maybe with past sculptures, and I'm quite happy with it. It has a lot of detail, as you can see here in the middle, in the eyes, and this whole front piece. I'll try not to exaggerate with protuberances or horns or anything like that today, because if I want to retopologize the model, because of the software that I'm going to use, I will show you later, called Instant Meshes, it might not work on these things, and if I want to have a small low poly model, it's better if I don't do that. But I already kind of tried it with the Instant Meshes, and it works fine. So this is the model. I've already exported the model, and what I'm going to do now is to switch to Blender and start to work with it, so you guys can see the whole process. So I'm going to exit Medium, and you'll have to wait for me to move everything. So here we go. So, okay, just give me a minute. So I have to set up, just to verify, create a new project here in Blender. So what is the name of this alien monster? So yeah. So okay, I am in Blender right now, and okay, so hoping that nothing breaks here. I'm going to close medium in the background meanwhile, and the default cube, and going to import obj file. This is the full obj file exported from medium. So there is a reason why I import first the full model into Blender, and it's because I like to export the model again. I like to sometimes place the object first, a few light tests, but I'm not going to retopologize here or do a heavy texture work or trying to UV on grab. I'm not going to do that. You'll see why. Man, this model is kind of heavy. Okay, here it is. So sometimes when you export your model from medium, it happens that it is like placed in the ground position, or it is huge, or I've heard another person mention that it was too small and quite far far from the origin point, meaning like probably over here or way too far. That is because when you're sculpting in Blender, if you are too away from the origin point, which if you work with medium and activate the mirror, you will see where is the middle point. So if you try to start to sculpt near that point, you won't have that problem. But if you have, and also you have this huge scaling problem, which is not that much of a problem. Once the model is imported, you what you do is press S and press 0.1 in your numerical keypad, and it will almost adjust into the size you want. So Blender uses a meter unit. You have to sometimes set it here to metric also, but by default, even when you don't have metric placed here on your right in your units, one of these squares here, it's equivalent to 1 meter. So again, it's near 2 meters height, but we'll fix that later. Or sometimes if you don't want to fix that scale, it's okay. But what we are going to do now is fix its rotation. So you press R and minus 90. Oh, in this case it didn't work. Let me check again. Rotate minus 90. No, rotate. Okay, rotate X minus 90. Yeah, that's the right rotation for this. And don't forget to save your model. To have, well, you have your orthographic camera over here. You can see it, and you can change that by pressing 5. and at least with this you are sure that position is parallel in everywhere. So by pressing 5 and having your orthographic camera or view, you make sure that you have a parallel position with any other object that you have on the view. And well, the object is not exactly on our floor, so I press 1 to have a front view, and dragging these arrows you can place your object a bit up, and let's say, well, if this is a 2-meter scale, we can adjust by pressing S and move your mouse to a more realistic head size. So I will say here, and that's over 1 meter. So I think that position is fine. I'm not saying that the alien is 1 meter high, but the overall head size, so we're here, this 10 centimeters, this 20 centimeters wide, so it's kind of a big head. Let's say it's a big head, and you will see why am I doing this first. And okay, we have our position, but the origin point is set here, and I require my origin point to be exactly in the origin point of our scene, and that's one of the reasons why I want first to import the whole 3D model into Blender. So to fix that, what I do is to press Ctrl A, and we press location, and our location is now set into the origin of the scene. There is another option here on Ctrl A, which is to apply those matrix changes. You can apply rotation and scale, and useful thing about this is when your object is too big, it obviously has huge numbers inside. So if you scale it down, when you export that file, those numbers will be smaller, and also if they are closer to the origin point, they will be smaller. In my case, I actually do need to have this pretty close to 1 meter, so in this case I'm going to do that, but I'm actually not sure if I should do that, because it might be a bit annoying in Substance Painter. So I think I'm going to move down this, apply the location, but move again the object here, so that way won't mess my I'm actually not sure, so I'm gonna make a little test. I'm going to export this, place a name here, alien monster, and I'm going to export this again as an OBJ. What I usually do when I'm exporting the same model is to place a B at the end of the name. I select here selection only. I remove the edges because that contains a bit of garbage, but I do want to have triangulate faces, and that is because if I want to use my model in let's say WebVR or in Sketchfab,
you might have a problem if your model is not completely set up as triangles, so you better do that. So only those, and that will reduce a bit your file size. So now I'm exporting, and I'm going to quickly open instant meshes just for a quick test, because I wanted to be sure that this play with this change I made with the origin point is going to work when I re-import the model into Blender. So I want to be sure, and it's because I require that both are in this exact same position, and I don't know if by messing the origin point when I import that to Blender, it means that it will move the point or the whole head to the origin point, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm still waiting for multi-export. Okay, so very quickly, I'm not showing this to you guys. I'm going to create just a quick test. I'm going to show the real process in a bit when I am doing it for real, because I need to try this first. So okay, a quick test here. What I'm doing with distant meshes that you can't see right now is to create a quick topology. That's it. That's what I need to, well, not exactly to test, but to be sure that the origin point is not messed up when I report that into Blender. So I'm going to extract the mesh here, quick save. So same name, almost same name. In this case I finish with IM, and that's it. Closing instant meshes, and now I'm going to import the new version here into Blender. As you can see, the file size is minimal, which is exactly what I want, and the object is placed in this exact same position, which is exactly what I wanted. Yes, so here on your right you can see here is the low poly version, but this needs a bit of rework because not everything is pretty good aligned. So I need to actually set up my table here just a bit, because I'm going to use my Wacom for this, but okay, I'm actually going to delete this model because I'm not going to use this one, but I'm going to still have this one. So just a quick test, just let's see how it looks. It might crash your computer. Sometimes it happens because these models are quite visually they are too heavy, so what I'm doing here is just trying to quick camera position. Let's try to test it. And it seems fine. Nice shadows and everything, but for this, what you can do is to use an environment texture. So I have a lot of HDR files here. You can get them at hdriheaven.com, and they're free. You can pay them in Patreon to support them. If you require these HDRIs too often, I will totally recommend to pay them. And I downloaded one today. I don't recall which was the name. It's an interior. Oh boy, let me check which one it is. I guess it's this one. I don't see any other. Okay. No, I don't think it's this one. But the thing is, I don't even recall if it's this one. Let me check if I need to check by date. So I'm going to check. I have to check into the HDRI directory just to verify which was the one that I just downloaded. It's called Old Apartments, so it's not this one. Here it is. Okay, it was too light. That was why I was ignoring it. They have 2K, 4K, and bigger sizes, but since these files have a huge dynamic range, they are quite heavy. So I mean, those files contain more color than what you are used to with a PNG image, but they are quite useful to illuminate your scene. So as you can see, probably on the outside it's a bit too bright. Maybe I can just reduce here a bit, say 0.2. Yeah, so it looks a bit more natural, but our object gets too dark. So it's something to consider when you are using these HDR files. Let me drink a bit of water. Okay. So, what's the next step? Well, I already exported the model, so I'm going to do what I did behind cameras. I'm going to, well, I need just to create a new window for instance meshes. Just well, I need to open the program first. So what I need is to capture a window. And select instant meshes here. Okay. And the transition. Okay. So this is instant meshes. Let me check where you can download this file. Let me see. I think you can go here. That is their official website, but you can download. I think their official builds are on GitHub. I think it's been a while since I downloaded the latest version, but it's from, I think, a couple months. I don't know if they have new versions. but you can use this program to retopologize your models. So as you can see here, my original model is 144 megabytes, and the one I exported from Blender, which that's one of the reasons why I do it um, through Blender, is because it removes certain problems with the mesh. And I do not exactly recall which ones were these problems, but at a time I test with Blender options to fix that. And so let me go back to the Blender. If you select your object, let me stop this because this is quite memory intensive. So if you export here, you select well, obviously only the model you want to export, and well, modifiers, it's only if you add a Blender modifier. But if you need to uh, remove the include edges and add triangulate faces, that is the thing that will remove your weird things, and you will be sure that your model will be fine to be used in any other project. So I'm going to open this one. This is the one we are going to replace. Oh, the window is not visible okay, you guys can see the open file window. So I'm just going to open the model. It's invisible because it's only loading the current window. So okay, it's loading. It's obviously a quite heavy model, and controls are a bit similar to Blender, meaning rotation, grabbing, scaling, so you can see details, and you can see how hard it is for the program to render a quite heavy poly model. So just a second, I need to answer something first. Okay, so the thing with instant meshes is that it lets you reduce huge topology of this file. So in my test, the file was reduced to from 117.9 megabytes, 180 megabytes, to 6 megabytes. So here it will the program will assume a few things about your model. It will assume that this is an appropriate size. You can move this slider to the right, and it will give you more polygons or more vertices. Or you can reduce it if you consider that you can use less polygons. And but since I have tried it before and I know how it looks, I'm going to leave this slider the way it is, also because it's a bit hard to place again the into the exact position. Well, I could write the number, but anyway. So what you do here is to press solve, and this will create a set of lines when it considers that the flow of your mesh should be. And it does automatically kind of a good job. And I mean, if I were lazier than usual, because I'm using the software, of course, and that's the idea when using this, try not to get much effort, I will just export this the way it is, and that's fine. And that was the test I just did. But for the face, or we would like to assume that left and right are symmetrical. So there are parts, like let's say here, that we don't want these cross hairs here, or over here. It just doesn't, it's not straight, it doesn't go from up to down. This will be right, this will have a correct way in my view. Or here it's wrong, here is right. So there's a way to fix this. They have a comb tool here. Well, there's a reason why this, if I leave it this way, it's gonna be a mess. And let's apply this for a second, so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So right now it's doing like a pre-process prior to export mesh, and you press here extract mesh. And the problem is, as you can see here, and these places where it assumed that the topology was that way, so sometimes it creates some twists and turns. Not, it's not right. I mean, you will expect that this will be symmetrical, and it's not. So we'll try to make it as symmetrical as possible. So if you're lazy, you can use your mouse. You press here this little comb, and once you press that, the movement interface is locked. You can't. I'm pressing right mouse button, and I can't move the object. So you have to set that position prior. If you are going to come, so you press here, and now I am changing to my Wacom tablet. And let's see, sometimes it's a bit hard, like the pressure sensitivity is a bit odd on this application. So when you press, you will see a line. So this line will inform the software that it has to follow that path. And as you can see, it quite straighten all this path. So I'm going to keep this adding straight lines as much as I can, and the software will try to, as you can see over here, it's solving again. And it's quite good doing that. The thing with the software is instant meshes, is that your topology, all of the quads it generates, they are pretty much the same area. And that's sometimes thing you don't want. Oh, I don't like this. Try this again. And I've seen other artists that they do their own retopology, and the quads change on size. Let's as an example, you will have a huge quad over here probably, and a small quad over here. But no, Instant Meshes decides to uh, have a very very uniform oh, this is awful, a very uniform topology, and the minimum quad it uses is based on, I think, because I'm not sure, on the smallest um, on the smallest or thinnest part of your model. So that quad fits that a smaller crevice or I don't know, horn you have, or um, protuberance, whatever you call it. Man, I'm doing this quite often. So the thing is, I mean, it's in the end, it's your own decision. You can decide how this topology works for you. In my case, I want symmetry. If your object is not that symmetrical, you will have to figure out which is the best way to comb all these hairs. So far over here it seems good. Sometimes it starts to lose track on the back, but I'm just going to check. It seems quite alright. Sometimes it just needs like cross line. Sometimes you want to check the eyes too, you know, what you want. Because if this software, if it's mesh knew how to solve the symmetry from the beginning, oh, here we have a problem. It will probably be easier. So I'm having a problem over here. The software solves. I'm gonna add another smaller one over here. Well, if it lets me. That's the thing sometimes. Let's see again. Okay. I think I'm going to do a cross. Just to be sure. The software tries to do its best, but sometimes it needs help. There is a weird here. I'm going to fix that too. So I'm gonna add one over here and the other over here. So it makes a lot of sense to sort your mesh that way. It still looks weird, like crazy. Well, some kind of. I could just leave it that way. I mean, it's in the end. Sometimes you don't even notice. You don't even notice those little problems. But sometimes when you have to unwrap, and we'll see that later, you have to cut in a weird place, um, or Blender decides where to cut, and it's quite noticeable. So let's try to solve this. Let's see if it doesn't look weird, or it looks weird here. Have a bit of a problem here in the middle. I mean, sometimes it's bad, sometimes not too bad. Didn't respond here quite good. There is difference between these two tools. One, combing, the way the mesh moves, and this other, if I'm not wrong, because I actually do not understand completely this tool. This is for edges. Let's see, edge brush, specify edges, paths of the output mesh. So you want a very nice crevice over here, so you add your own. Oh boy, it's pain already. So the server is gonna try to create a clean edge where you place that, but I actually do not understand completely that. So let's just say that this is complete to move on. But sometimes I don't get that strict with what I want, but I just want to show you the capabilities of this. And if I knew how to use the tool better, or create my own topology, but this will be a mess to try to read topology manually on Blender. These are things that should be automatic. That's why I love this program. So solve it here again, just for fun. Oh, microphone is low. Very low. Damn, I was not aware. I hope that my microphone issues are solved. Let me check my microphone settings over here. Microphone. Well, I think it's this microphone. N properties over here, and levels, just way up, and I think that's better. I hope. I'll have to check my microphone later, but I think it's working now. I hope it's working now. So Andreas Aronson was the one who reported my microphone problem. I have to thank him. I'll thank him later for that. I need to check my microphone. If the settings are working now, it's thanks to him. So I'm going to place my chat like on top, so I can see these things. I usually forgot to check my chat right over here. There you go. So okay, so export mesh, extract mesh, and we have this one thing I like to check sometimes is that if the topology is too aggressive, it creates holes in the model, and you obviously don't want that. But so far it seems that the model it's good enough for me. So you just go and save your model. I guess you can't see this right now, but just export it. I add a suffix to the name is low dash im, meaning instant meshes. The file size is 6 megas, 151 kilobytes, 60,151 kilobytes. So now I go back to Blender, and you will see what is going to happen here. I sometimes try to not go back to instant meshes unless I ruin somehow my mesh or try to create something too weird. So let's import the model. I usually use a new layer for this, so it doesn't crash whatever I'm trying to do. 6 megas, and as you can see, the model loads quite fast, and you can see over here the very reduced topology as in comparison with this, which is quite high. So why do we need to do this? Why do we need to reduce our model size if we actually require that amount of detail in our models? And the answer to that is we technically are not losing any data, because we can recover that data later using textures that will recover or extract the detail from our high poly model, huge model, into this low model. And that's how games and this whole industry works, creating small versions of your high poly model, loading with textures that contain all that detail, and all together it's not as heavy as the original, for example this 140 megabytes. So the first thing, we enter to edit mode, which on Blender 2.79 is the tab, shortcut, and as you can see, there is a lot of green, orange lines, and this is because Instant Meshes is exporting each face like almost with individually, so that's why you can see all the faces here. But if you move to your original model, you can't exactly perceive, notice all the faces, and that is because of these green lines. So these green lines, we have to remove them. You press Ctrl E, and if I'm not wrong, it's clear sharp. You press that, you wait, and now you see only your orange lines showing your topology. So you exit the edit mode, pressing tab again, and you can see that the whole surface is smooth. You enter again because we need to do one more step with our model, and it's to create a topology. So for this, I'm going to add a dummy 4096, a dummy texture just to visualize what we're gonna do. And what we're gonna do, it's called UV unwrap. So I press U on Blender, and we have a couple of options here. Just unwrap, which will create a horrible unwrap. Just waiting for this. And this will be useful for creating our textures, and as you can see, everything looks orange, and this is not what you want. So Blender comes with an easy to use for topology, UV unwrapping. So you press this Smart UV unwrap. It has a few settings you might want or not want to mess with them. It will try to keep the curves and total aspect of your model. If you reduce, I think if you increase this, the mesh will look more like a square, so you don't want totally that to happen. So for the sake of this example, let's just use this default settings. So what happened here? The whole model is unwrapped, and what that means, if you have a let's say a candy wrapped in paper, some kind of plastic or whatever, if you unwrap your candy, it will look flat. So it means that candy was wrapped in a way it represented a sphere. So we are doing kind of the same here. We are unwrapping our whole model like a candy wrapper, and it's represented into this texture as flat as it can be. But the thing is, a candy wrapper is squared, so that's their original shape. But when you grab your candy, you will have like this, how do you call that? Oh, I need to check the word. You will have wrinkles or creases into your candy. So my model here technically does not have wrinkles. The model itself, it has, but the wrapped model in itself, it doesn't have those wrinkles. So when you unwrap the model, instead of wrinkles, we get tears. So when you try to flat your model, it will break apart, and that's why we have zones like this where there is huge tear or holes when they are connected to other pieces, and that piece, I don't know, like a horn or nose or something, it just totally teared apart and placed elsewhere. Just say here, like this island over here, and and well, that causes a problem. So sometimes when you're texturing, you don't want to have a whole island in your texture. So let me check this button over here. With this button selected, if I select one face on our model here, it will be reflected over here. So this part of the face is actually here, and it's because it's a kind of a nose. So Blender decided to tear the whole object apart and place it elsewhere. So I actually don't want much this to happen. So what I'm gonna try to do is to create a cut myself. Let's say I don't care if someone looks at my model from the back. So what I need to do, if I know how to, yeah, like this, to create a line. I'm going to try. Okay, I'm going to add here, I think it's Control E again, and you create a seam, mark seam. So this will be painted as red when you deselect it. So let's start from here, and as you can see, the topology, it's the best Instant Meshes was able to, but it's not perfect. And what you want, oh, let's try this again. Pressing Alt. Okay, that's a good cut. Mark seam here, and press Alt, Control E, mark seam, and we have a seam over there. Yeah, the ideal seam will be straight, and if the model topology will be entirely symmetrical. So try to do my best. So I have that seam if, but in this case I need to, if I do a smart viewing grab, if I'm not wrong, my cut here is not going to be taken into account, but I'm not exactly sure. So what is this piece over here? Let's say, you see this is wrong. This is one side. Where's the other? Oh, it's here. What happened to the face then? Face over there. And here's a piece of the face. What is this hole? That's below. That's below. Thought this was in the back. Back's over here. What is this hole? How it created that hole, I don't know. It's because it's like a long, very long tier. Such a weird cut. This point where it is, it's over there. What a weird topology. If I use, let me check the ungrab, normal ungrab. If I'm not wrong, it tries to use the seam I created. This is gonna take a while. If I'm not wrong, this takes more time. Well, it's now taking longer because of that. Okay. So it tried to do its best. I mean, this is kind of what I would like to do, to try to unwrap from the front face and the back. But this is quite hard. I don't know why the microphone seems to have like a lot of noise, like a lot of vibration. But I think it's all right. I think I'm gonna have to check this later. So I'm gonna try. Well, still trying. Nope. It's a very ugly cut. Just let's try to unwrap this again. So I usually try to create these cuts, but the result is so unsatisfying. That's why I understand when people try to create their own topology, because this will be fixed in no time. So anyway, this center part is what I would like for the mesh to look, but it even has an overlapping. So sometimes just give up and just do the regular smart viewing grabbing. Hey, what happened here with it? Just be. Oh boy, let's. Why is doing that? Shouldn't be doing that. Oh boy. What are the dimensions? Let's move this up. What are the dimensions? It's in the world. Change the scale. I don't know what happened with island. It should be like 16. No, what the hell is happening here? I need to upload a new version of Blender just to verify that. It's because, well, it's not that it's too necessary for this model, but what the hell? It's the same in the other version of Blender. I don't know. I have to check that later or restore factory settings, because that island margin should be like 16. Anyway, the problem with this is like they are too close to each other. That's a problem. Seems to be fine. They're not like too close, but it might be a problem later. So let's just ignore that for now. But okay, let's say that the topology is correct. Quotes. So export wavefront, and I just overwrite my last IM, and this because I don't want it to generate too much files. I have already 2 copies of huge files, so right now we have that. The file will increase a bit in size. It has increased from 6 to 9 megabytes, and that's because it now has the UV information, which is this process we just have already created. So those vertices, as you saw them on the right side in orange, that information, that those coordinates for each pixel flat are now included on the file, so that's why it's heavier, and we need that. We need that projection. So what's next? What's next is to create a small scene for this alien head, which I think is one of the most interesting parts of this project. So just try to create a scene for this model. Try to center this. Have our small render there. I actually don't like that light, but so this we change here materials and model. This is called heraldic monster. We can place now a new basic texture. I will show you later what I do with my textures, but for now let's just add a principle texture, default white, and it usually looks quite nice. You can increase metallic values here and reduce specular, increase specular, but the most important for a metal would be roughness. If you wanted to make it completely reflective, or you polish too much on it and it loses its brightness, so that's what happened with the roughness factor. Low, in this case, low is better if you want to create a metallic. But I actually don't like too much this environment map, so let's just change it. Let's see, I actually don't have like quite inner settings for this. Let's try this one. But I actually don't want it to make this metallic, so just a bit of a test. Usually, if you wanted to change your light, if you have, I think it's a complement. An add-on for your for Blender that can automatically add this to nodes. Control T. I don't know what is the name of that. User preferences. One add-on. It's this one. It's called Node Wrangler. It has a few shortcuts or options when you're working with nodes, and sometimes you forget these two. So you click into this one, press Ctrl T, and it creates these two nodes for you. So what I need to do is rotate, but not this way. I need to rotate on C axis, just to move the light kind of to the front. This is too intense, so point 2 again. It's a little bit that way, but I will use authority settings. There is one in particular. Here is color management, but that's already set. You can change this. Usually base contrast is enough. But okay, I wanted to just okay. I want to have a base for my head. Not being too careful with it. I'm going to move it down. Select the face. Just move it up. Close as I can, and now I have a nice shadow over here. So right now I'm not getting worried about textures or anything. Just wanted to confirm. No, you on grab, but I want to verify the direction of this little line over here is the normal angle. So this way you know which side the plane is looking. Useful because unless you want to project a two-sided plane or mesh or object, it will only render one side. So if the camera is on this side, it will render this but will not render this if the normal is pointing backwards. But in this case it's alright. So I want to scale this a bit. Just want to create a small wall. What happens now if I move the light? Probably you want darkness over here. In this case, this is just to create a like an ambient light. You don't want it to, or maybe you want it to illuminate the whole object. In this case, I don't want it to. It's like an inside setting. So I'm just trying to use very soft light, like it's bouncing from the walls. But you can add a lamp, an area lamp, and illuminate your model. It's too big. You can change their size right here. And it looks a bit better, but it's like feel too much light maybe. Or probably now too low. Do a quick render test. I'm going to change this to there's no render here, so F12. Exactly, I didn't want it to happen. It's rendering in my wrong window, but anyway. Well, this is not the version of a quick render. I should have left this to 50%. But yeah, this is kind of what I want. Like small presentation on this skull, fleshy skull, head, whatever. Let's move this over here so it can be visible meanwhile. There is, let me check, there's this lamp. Oh yeah. There's a sun lamp. Oh, forgot. That's way too much. So, in this case, I'm going to remove it. Sometimes what I do is these planes, I added like I've done it before. I just add black here, and it looks quite good in contrast with the object. It looks clean, and I like this sort of, probably not too much noticeably here, but this light fade, it's a bit of a reflection that it creates, and it looks quite nice. I mean, it's just the default settings, and I like how the way it looks. So I would like to add I would like to move this better too. To here. Just don't interrupt me. But I wanted to add like capsule or container to my object, and a plate. But let's see if I add a plane here, scale 0.1, whatever, forward, rotating X90, scale 0.5, and scale here a bit. Actually, this looks quite right, probably too big. Looks a bit better. And I want to add a cover for this. So pull down this bit. So now I have different object, extrude. The reason for this is just to add a different material. So in this case, well, let's just place a fake brown right now. This one, Blake. Is it actually run a Blake? Blake or plate? Blake, I think it's Blake. Just different color, just blah blah blah. And I'm going to copy this object and what is happening? Okay, got distracted a bit, but I'm trying to figure out why I can't move this. Why it's moving everything. Should be this is glass. This one is like column, I guess. What are you? Wood stand. Why is it doing that? I don't know why. I see a control here. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't know what control is this. Why is moving the whole object? I don't want it to move everything. Why is it doing that? Is it because... Why is it doing that? I don't get it. It's moving the whole object. It has never happened to me. And it's showing that weird ring. What have I done? Seriously, I don't understand what is happening. I can do this. Why is showing that circle on scale? I need to search for it. It seems like it's proportional editing, but I've never... Okay, figure out what it is. This box. What a problem. I don't know how did I activate that proportionality thing. I don't know if something default from this version, because I decided to update Blender. This is one option, to use the glass this way. The thing is, it will make it look like if it's enclosed into a huge piece of glass, and I don't want that. Why is Blender behaving weird with me today? I don't know what. Shouldn't be doing that. If I extrude this piece, why? There should be two pieces here, not one. Why is doing that? Oh my god. There's no face now? This is not what I want. What's the position location? Okay. I'll grab this here for a moment. Why is it doing that? I mean, I extrude, pull, scale, then it goes up. No, I need to extrude again, then this moves up. No. What is this mess? Oh boy! What is happening? What is doing this? Okay, that looks a bit better. That glass BSDF. And okay. This case, I know I can change the box this way so it be displayed permanently that way. trying to make the crystal a bit slimmer. So let's say for now this thing is okay, and so what I'm going to do now is to set up Substance Painter and go there. So before moving to Substance Painter, I'm going to export all the models. I have to re-export again this little boy, I think, or well, I don't recall if I already exported with a UV maps. I think I did, but I'm gonna do it again just to be sure. And this one is wall. The reason why I'm placing and naming the materials is because in Substance Painter that is required. It's required or useful because It creates a list of names not based on the name of the object but in the name of the material. So there you have it. You have to do that if you don't want to. So column. And I think that's pretty much it. I think the only one I'm not going to export is the glass case. It's wood. This is the plaque. So there is, for one side there is the head, which I already exported, and now I'm going to, well, I need to create their UV maps. Or their UV on grab. I correct myself. This one, to exit. This floor could be a lot smaller. So saying this just because the shot does not require a huge floor, so it's just a tad of floor. It's not, I don't even know if I'm gonna use it, but let's just pretend that I require a floor. Here, let's scale this. No. Over here, and then it's like this edge. Over here. And location and rotation scale, and location and rotation scale, and this location and rotation scale. It has to be sure this for the textures to smart UV and grab. Let's check how this is just a square, so it shouldn't be a problem. This one too. This one too. In the case of this one, there is this face, but I don't require the face on the back, so again, I'll grab. That's better. And which face? The one at the bottom? This one. Delete it. Oh, that's it. Didn't change much the texture, but the thing is, I'm removing unnecessary faces because those faces are going to waste space on my textures, so it's better like this for everyone. So in this case it worked like charm, but in this one, I mean, I could do this. Nope. Probably if I upscale this. No. Let's try smaller number, 30. No, it just doesn't do it. This is fine. So I think I'm gonna go mute for a few minutes, and because I just expect a lot of noise here, and but I'll keep working, and when the noise is over I will return. And you should see changes on the screen. Okay, we are back with audio. So so okay, I already created textures for the whole scene. I know that most of the textures are not visible, like the floor or a big part of the wall. And why this is black? Probably it's reflection. But if I want to export this to a BR scene, it will be really easy to have already those textures set up. And yep, so okay, now well, I already have the scene. Now it's time to create texture for the head. So in this case I am loading first the low poly version of the head, and I'm going to save the project just as head. And for this I really want a complex material, so I gotta get fancy with what I want. I want probably a bit of subsurface scattering, and a bit of gradients in the texture, and a very big important step, and it's to recover the detail from the original model. So to do that I'm going to load the high poly version of the model, in this case the Blender one, because it's the one that has the right location and rotation and all that, so I know that both models will be aligned. And that alignment is necessary because when the normal maps, which are the ones that have most of the relevant texture or detail, the small detail, need to be in the exact same location, both low and high poly. So here you have it. You have a the low poly version with a high detail, but as you can see, because of the unwrap, there are some artifacts which I hope to be lost when when the texture is applied. But so far I am quite happy with the result. is at 42% still. There is a dialog box, but it's not visible in this screen. So I am rendering the baking the textures to see if those little artifacts that appear on the texture are removed. If not, I might have to try something different, trying triplanar texture. Is now at 85%. There's still quite some ugly artifacts there. Best idea I have is just activate triplanar on the texture bed. I don't know if I have to bake this again, but I'm going to try a low resolution because this takes a long time. Now the problem with this is it comes from the UV texture, so of course my laziness takes a toll. and is on these small details. So what I wanted to do now is to try and add a different texture, not overall, but like trying to add small details on the crevices. So that's what I'm gonna try to do, and that's why I place another very contrasty color. This is wrong. I forgot a step. Probably these settings are too high. Yeah, that was the error. Sorry, I need a mask first. Can I do a drag and drop here? Empty dirt. I'm gonna hide this one. trying to recall. Yeah, there is setting you can add here. PVR. So if I'm not wrong, this should add like an option to, yeah, transmissive. The thing is, you can recall right now is where you can control that factor, because totally forgot. I know there is a transmissive map, but I think it's this one. Yeah, I think it's this one. You decide in which texture you want to add that, so the logical way to add the biggest texture, you know, so you pick here like fleshy tone. Widescreen, I don't know. Oh, I recall widescreen. It should be okay. The thing is, you could edit this transmissive map and decide where you want those fleshy tones to appear, but I'm gonna leave that to Blender. There is a transmissive node in Blender that I added from previous tests. So I already know that it's here. So right now I am, well, I hope that the map is not being exported with that green color, but man, this is awful. But I hope it's not too much. I mean, I would like to, of course, for the model to have a huge quality, but sometimes it's just tests me fooling around with textures. I need to learn proper topology. I would like this to be a bit darker. Let's just move this here for a second. I can look at this color. So this will look better in Blender because light here it's real time, and light behavior it's quite different from real time to ray tracing. So I'm hoping that the whole light scenario changes when we are there. So I'm just going to restore probably this color here just to be sure, just to test if this exports that color. So I'm going to export the textures to my folder. So yeah, for this model I'm using, oh I forgot, I need to bake again the textures. So 4K resolution, bake textures, of course this is gonna last ages. So I guess I'm going to move to Blender just to not stuck the interface. Oh, I was in Blender. Okay, so let's go back here. Didn't notice that it was in Blender, but yeah. So let's get ready here. So this is what I hope to achieve with the fleshy texture here. Transmissive. This node's GLTF node. That's if you want to export your model to a GLTF format and self-contained with all its textures, binary format. It's great for it. So just, well, it's gonna take a lot of time to export, to bake those textures. Substance painter, so I gotta think something to say on this side, but yeah, I would love to have a more knowledge on how to export, how to create a proper topology. I think I've not been pushed enough to be able. I mean, usually when I sit to learn this new stuff, it's because I require that. Like I feel forced because requirements from project push me to learn, and usually instant meshes is more than enough. But there are a few instances with these details and um, those cuts. It just ruins a bit the even wrap and therefore the texturing process. So I know I have to learn to do that. The way this texture is here looks quite nice, even when it's not the original texture. That's from Apple, an Apple project. Not not the company Apple, but literally an apple. I model it in Medium, and then export it to Blender. So when I use these notes, usually they kept their previous texture. I copy the last node configuration to the new from the last project to the new project, and that's why they remain. So now it's just turn to assign the textures into Blender now that they are exported. So I actually forgot to export them. What I was doing was bake them, so they're now exported, I think. Okay, so now opening into Blender. Oh no, they're PNG. I don't like PNG. PNG is actually good quality, but I usually don't use those textures for web. I have to delete the PNG versions quick. So okay, go again to Blender, open the JPEG version, and the height and metallic. When I create this node setup, I made sure that the order of the nodes were the same order, the same alphabetical order when they are exported, so I don't have to think too much about where is my texture. So here's roughness, and here is the one with the transmission. So it's this one, if I'm not wrong. Let's take a look how the transmissive looks a bit different to roughness, and even the ambient occlusion. It's just like it gives a sense of thickness in the material. I don't know how that value is calculated, but I hope that when we are rendering this, it looks nice. So here we go.